So. Yeah. Yeah, it's 100 pounds, it's super great, that whole weight, then we went to Washington, get it for the, almost that, oh, okay.
All right. I will call to order this regular monthly meeting. Board of Trustees. Trustee Dartha will be joining us momentarily. We have any changes to the agenda?
I do have a potential hire. Question item.
You have an executive session item as well, as a couple of additions under new business. Some resolutions to approve us applying for a couple of grants, which we'll discuss. Get that in. Anything else? Hearing none, our consent agenda includes our monthly abstract of claims and meeting minutes from our December 8th meeting. The abstract includes general fund abstract totaling $287,480.05. Water fund abstract totaling $182,163.46. And sewer fund abstract totaling $34,453.33. Someone like to move the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Comments, questions, or need to pull any item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, and all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Good. That brings us to our first public comment period. Looks like we have one member of the public present online. And hey, a couple of people here.
Yeah.
In person. Anyone like to speak? I was saying hi to that.
Go
Go
ahead.
Wasn't going to be. Okay, go ahead.
Do you, but use the mic when I say?
Please.
Yes, so other people can hear you.
Here, we ask you the mic. Don't think the mic. No, you can actually take it. Prefer to sit, so you just.
Hi, well, you all know who I am, but for the recording, I'll say I'm Jess Seaver. I'm the owner of 16 Elm Heritage Hotel, which is across the street here on Elm Street. So I have written some things down for a little sort of brevity and concise, but there is some nuance, just bear with me. So I'd like to briefly address the ongoing zoning change request for 14 and 16 Elm. I wasn't able to attend the November-December meeting, so I'll address concerns I heard in those recordings. First, I want to thank my neighbors for coming out to those meetings. I have no ill intent towards them and have no intention of ruining our neighborhood's unique appeal. I went back and read all of my reviews for 16 Elm, and in fact, over 90% talk about the beauty of the property. 30% mention location, and another 30% mention the peace and quiet. So the overarching theme is that it's in my business best interest to maintain the things my guests love, which incidentally, my neighbors also enjoy. A well-maintained and beautiful historic property and gardens that are quiet and peaceful and easy access to the village main street. The main concern I'm hearing is the what ifs of commercial or mixed use zoning. And I can't predict every scenario, but the mixed use allowances being currently drafted by the CPZR seem very reasonable for keeping a vibrant village economy. Any allowed use would still require the stringent site plan review. And this village has a track record for taking residents into account when making changes. I also heard the concern that 16 Elm is becoming an events or a wedding center. So I'll address that directly. We hosted 3 small weddings in 2025 and 1 rehearsal dinner, all with 0 complaints. One of those weddings was personal friends, and we just had a ceremony with guests in the front yard, and the guests left for a reception elsewhere. The 2 others had outdoor dinners, but indoor receptions. No live music outside, except a cello trio and a keyboard, respectively. I work with these clients extensively to review their moment-by-moment plans while on the property so that it fits within the framework of our neighborhood setting. We don't advertise as a wedding venue. We have info on our website, so we do attract, using organic search, people already looking for small or low-key events. That's naturally a very small demographic since the average wedding is about 150 people or more. We currently have no weddings booked for 2026, but our business plan allows for and would like 4 to 5 small gatherings per year with about 40 to 50 guests, events that naturally complement the setting. A little bit on tourism and the impact on local business, which I might be preaching to the choir, but maintaining a vibrant village economy also increases the quality of life here for village residences and thus raises property values. This is something we all know and support in theory, but here in this type of zoning request is where we see where the rubber meets the road and can and will the community support local businesses. All our main businesses rely on summer income to get them through the winter, and I can't stress enough the great impact tourism has on our economy. It's millions of dollars in tax revenue alone. Our municipal governance has done a great job encouraging local entrepreneurship, and staying true to that task keeps our village life vibrant and goes hand in hand with property values, which in turn is what pays the bills, EMS, fire, Department of Public Works, etc., all the stuff that is on tonight's agenda. So, would you like to sit? No, it's okay. So I'll just briefly reiterate my request, knowing that, you know, we're in this CPZR moment. I'll speak with them. It's ongoing. There'll be more meetings, the whole thing. But just to briefly reiterate, what 16 needs is to add lodging units to create an economy of scale and take advantage of the high season for tourism. This will, of course, require further investment, one that might be worth it in the end to maintain the historic property. I'll reiterate that the current 5-bedroom model can't sustain this property financially. I've invested over $500,000 in improvements so far, with $55,000 in repairs in 2025 and another $50,000 at least slated for 2026. And that doesn't include replacement reserves for the 65-year-old boiler, updated HVAC, the roof. I know you're all going to be reviewing a roof quote, so you know how that goes, or any type of sewer or drainage work that we also need. My neighbors mentioned the property is well kept and beautifully maintained, but that doesn't happen alone or by itself. It takes labor, materials, and the money must be generated. Without a change, I'm not sure where we stand or what the highest and best use for 16 Elm is. We may be looking at a redevelopment as multi-units or 10 to 14 new housing lots as some other residential use that is currently allowed, other than a hospitality business. As the conversation develops with the CPZR, community members, I'll be happy to address concerns and give input wherever is appropriate. Thank you. I do want to know how exciting are all these reports from everybody, so I know if I should stay or not.
Not overly.
Scale of 1 to 10.
A 1.5.
Quick public comment. Anyone online, if you wish to comment, use the raise hand feature, please, and then I can unmute you. You're officially or more. All right.
I can't be.
I don't know. Here's a member of the public.
Here for a member of the public.
Okay.
Representing Center Construction.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
I see no other members of the public at large here, so you guys have a non-DPW. Do you have anything to add?
No.
All right, we'll move on to change for us. I don't know if we have a specific town of Ulysses representative to the village, so now our new county legislator has chosen to provide us with fairly comprehensive written reports, which is very nice. So if we ever feel the need or have the desire to invite Rachel to come speak, just let her know or let me know. Once I find out about the town, a hold the reports from representatives
Okay,
from
the agenda.
the agenda, since there won't be a formal report.
Did Rachel send something? I missed it.
She did send something, I don't. CC.
Today, do I need to look for that?
Did everyone get it?
Mm,
Trustees, I certainly did. I thought.
I didn't
Oh,
know if
maybe.
anyone else was-
Yeah.
I'll just look for it.
Reports from this board, we have in the Dropbox, I believe. Our annual engagement letter from. Council from the village. Not sure if everyone's had a chance to look at it, no
Mhm.
changes other than our rate. Going up slightly as is everything else. And so I would entertain a motion to authorize me to sign the engagement letter with Thaler, Guy Pro of Thaler for 2026. So moved. Second. Comments, questions, discussion?
nope.
None, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, any abstentions? Second meeting of the month.
The 26th, I will be out of town.
Do we know for sure that we do or don't need a second meeting?
I don't know that we need one.
So I would throw out there that we so far only have 2 budget sessions isolated, the 4th and the 11th. So I was wondering if, and maybe in the middle of a meeting, I could just circulate what we have and people put their eyes on it. That's what we had done in January last year. Even if it's sort of like that. If everything isn't super tight with commissioners and department heads, at least there's a review of it, so it's. I'm concerned that there's only 2
I'm
budget
okay with
sessions.
that.
What's that?
Do we not?
No one has replied in substance to the legal poll that was sent out, the second. So we can talk about that on my topic, but that was in reference to the 26th. Did you want to use that as a budget session?
So let's post the cancellation of the meeting on the 26th. Do you have those dates you sent for that most recent?
The ones after the 2 that have been identified, wait, okay, I don't think that. I don't have. That. Right.
So it's the 4th and the 11th, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like it was the week of the 23rd. It's dates.
The other dates are the 18th, 19th, 24th.
Thank you.
So I'm not here the week of the 18th and 19th is school break.
Okay.
Yeah, that's no good for me either.
25th, I'm available.
I am.
This is
And the idea would be that would be in addition to our second meeting on the 23rd,
Yeah, we always schedule 3 budget sessions.
separate from the second meeting.
Oh, that's true.
Oh,
We can keep the 23rd for sure as a budget session if everyone's available on the 23rd.
Mhm.
That's already on my calendar.
And so do that, have two budget sessions, make the 23rd a budget meeting, and then schedule an emergency extra third if you need one.
I don't think we don't need to schedule
Great,
another meeting.
Yep.
I think the 23rd will be our third budget meeting.
okay. Good, thank you.
So it's 4th, 11th, and 23rd.
Hey, said she tried to join. So, Benford. The Zoom meeting, so I don't know, at first she joins again, I asked her to join again. Yeah. I said to the YouTube one. Please.
No, I don't want that. Go away.
Speaking of meetings, so I'll need you to notice that. At our regular meeting on the 9th of February. We will be holding a public informational session, not public hearing. A public informational session on the West Main Street sidewalk project. MRB will be going over. In some detail, the scope of the project. We'll have time for Q&A. That is a requirement of. Grant funding.
What was that date?
February 9th. Second Monday, that's our regular monthly meeting for February. So we can post that on the website and then I need to let folks know at the state of the village.
Do you want me to spend $75 posting it in the newspaper?
There will be, it's not a public hearing.
And State of the Village is firm for the 6th, correct?
7?
7th, I mean.
I. Is it?
Sorry, that's.
So I mean, it's for,
7th February. So
okay, it's for,
lots of meetings.
do we want me to spend $800, $400, $450 in postcard mail, service mail? For that,
Yes, but then.
my intention is to use the same postcards. And change the date. Unless anyone has any opposition.
Yes, send me the.
Okay.
Send me more than hot dog. Try to get that out.
Oh, I'm great to get out this week. Because that's the shy one,
Get it out.
which we can do, we keep the same design with, like, if I don't have to try to stand it on page down. Yeah, yeah.
There's public info on West Main sidewalk, February 9th. Stand Village, February 7th.
Okay.
Excellent, I think that's it for me. Marsh and Fire.
Fire, I have the end of the year report. We had 417 calls for the year end. I think it's about 100 over last year. We had out of district, we had 35 calls. Town of Covert had 50. Town of Hector had 30. Town of Ulysses had 185. And the village had 133. We had 8 structure fires, a vehicle fire. We had 6 vegetation fires. We had 46 assists for EMS. We had 3 rescues, 26 motor vehicle accidents, 4 extractions, hazardous conditions called 50, service calls 115, 79 false alarms, canceled en route 66, mutual aid given 10, mutual aid received 8. The average personnel for each call was about 6.4. Our en route time was 2.59 minutes. And our average on scene time is 8 minutes and 20 seconds. We had 0 firefighter injuries and 0 deaths. And just one more thing that I talked to the chief about, because fire trucks are getting ridiculously expensive. He's talking about maybe taking the next vehicle that might be up, which is like 10 or 12 years old. I think it's 04, I'm not sure. They have a company that will revamp fire trucks, like completely, engine, paint, everything. And that costs between $200,000 and $300,000. Right now, the average truck is going for 1.5 million, and if you want a ladder truck, it's over $2 million. So he's thinking maybe we could take advantage of these refurb companies for the engines that might still have some use and get good looking over and save us quite a bit of money. So I think that's something we ought to look into.
Is he asking for action?
He's not asking for action. He's just saying that for what the future looks like, and if these companies are available, we might want to take advantage of refurbishing trucks in, in the future versus spending.
Did you have any sense of like how long that extends the life?
We didn't discuss it in depth, but my guess is it would be worth it simply because they do everything, like engine, valves, just everything, frames, everything that needs to be done. So, it's kind of getting a neat, Matt might have something to say about it, but, right,
Retail boards
right,
bid a adoption that 4 years. If you refurb it, thing would go forward hadn't been driven super hard. But again, we live in a very salty environment in the winter time. So if you refurb it, we might extend it an extra 8 to 10 years, depending on how hard we try. Refurbing an engine like that is not a bad idea. Refurbing the ladder truck is not.
right,
Because the ladder truck is based on the ladder. If you have some, now ladder trucks have to go out every 5 years and get inspected. When they inspect the ladder, the aerial device, they x-ray and all that stuff. If they find faults in it and you have to replace it, it's very expensive. The recommendation on that would be stick to the 20 years again. That one was bought. Well, so that one, when you go to replace that, you're looking at
over 2
the way the
million.
cost is going, you're gonna be $2.5 million. And the fire service is getting away from ours, a straight stick or bucket. You're pushing more towards the bucket due to fire safety. And you can have more personnel. Right now, you can only have one firefighter at the tip with 50 and no water. With the buckets, you can have 3 firefighters with water and a pick, so you can have a lot more personnel. However, the bigger the truck, the longer it is, the heavier it is, as we know. Kind of maxed on space in our firehouse, and the length would not fit on a 10 axle. Larger ladder truck. As we are what we're trying to get toward within the station. That's down the road.
What do they do in the downtime of the truck being refurbished?
We're just down.
We're just down a truck.
We could work with Foreman and see if we can get a loaner truck or just a down vehicle. We have to rely a little more on mutual aid, so we could have a discussion about that deal and the trucks can go to Buffalo for service in September, so we do rotate it now, so for a week, on the truck. The schedule on how long it takes to refurbish it. That'd be some logistical stuff, and maybe get a loaner truck for a little bit.
Okay.
That'd be a discussion with chief,
Right,
next incoming chief.
right.
Figure out, is it better?
Yeah, I don't mind the idea of
Yeah,
refurb depending. It's appropriate.
yeah, it's usually like refurbing, hopefully we can figure out a better way to undercoat. Right,
Mm,
as you see in some of your trucks, as they said, the salt, rust. Yeah, the fire truck, we do our best to try to spray it, but sometimes you just salty water is just real hot.
that's it.
That's for fire. EMS youth and street tree advisory.
So I don't, as I mentioned at the beginning, have a couple potential hires to discuss in executive session. But other than that, I don't really have news. I will call or share quickly the call report. 14 for Comfort, 4 for Hector, 6 for the city of Ithaca, 3 for Mecklenburg, 1 Newfield, 1 Ovid, 20 in the village, 19 10. So overall, a pretty light month, which is fairly normal. But that's all I have.
Okay. DPW water sewer CPZR funders.
So, sorry, that was a call. I think we somehow full locked her out, so we'll have to figure that out, but I don't think it's something we can figure out very quickly.
I didn't see anyone trying to get in.
Yeah, I think somehow she got listed as like no, never allowed in. Like there's a way you can do that. I sent her to the YouTube channel, so hopefully she can at least watch, but I think there's some setting on Uber and Zoom, so we'll get there. We'll figure it out. But onto my reports, I don't have honestly a ton to report, I think the only thing that maybe I'll mention is on CPZR, and then, you know, if you're both here, if you don't want to say anything on the DBW water sewer side, but for the CPZR, we are continuing to move forward with some of the conversation we just had earlier tonight. The next meeting is on the 19th in this room at 6:30. I think the big discussion in front of the committee continues to kind of be Elm Street, basically. It's many of the same options that we discussed at this board, to do effectively nothing, to extend the commercial zone and reduce its intensity, but then extend it through and include 14 and 16 Elm, or another one, which I don't know we discussed quite as much here, is to just allow slightly more units in the residential general. And so those are kind of the options that I think the committee will debate, and my hope is that we can get to a proposal back to this board at that meeting. Other than that, as far as the rest of the commercial kind of non-Elm Street related pieces, we are in pretty good shape. I think there's a little bit of wordsmithing happening on definitions, but I think we can kind of let that happen in parallel. So my hope is that basically we can have that committee send a draft back to this board by next week, that we can start looking at individually and talk more about in February. I'd love to be able to get that back here as well, so that we can talk a little bit more about it at the State of the Village. I suppose it's not absolutely necessary that it be back in front of this board just then, but that would be my goal for some of that zoning work. Because there's lots of good other stuff for people who are listening later or online now. There's a lot of parts that are moving in there. It's focused on commercial on Main Street largely. There's a lot of design guidelines and some improvements and changes for density and more walkability and pedestrian friendliness down in the main core, and kind of maintaining a lot of what we have built there historically, I think, in great ways. So there's a lot of good stuff in there, and I like to kind of keep it all moving. Not much to say on the farmers market. They're kind of in their quiet period at this point. Is there anything in particular feels like we should talk about for DBW water sewer? Otherwise, I think we can just.
Our first 2 water breaks last month, eh?
We did, same time. Hats off to you.
Same next year. Wild water.
Yeah.
Both done in 11 hours. That's pretty good.
Good job.
Yeah, no appreciation to the DPW for handling the always small but unfortunate number of water breaks that we get every year.
We were also assisted by one of Lizzie's employees, and which was very helpful.
Excellent. That's it for me.
Okay, please join us.
So I will start with Chief Nelson's report. So we had 276 calls in December, 4 calls for service outside of the village within the town of Ulysses. We assisted the Tompkins County Sheriff Department with 4 civil complaints. Not non-criminal. So within criminal investigations, PD responded to 3 harassments, 2 domestic disputes, 2 disorderly conducts. 1 theft. 1 sex offense reported, 1 motor vehicle crash. Non-criminal, there were 125 property checks, 73 officer initiated traffic enforcement, and then of those 23 were issued tickets. 11 parking problems, and then 27 informational inquiries and background checks for physical permits. That is the chief's report, and then so this month, the chief and I talked about. So currently, the Dodge Charger is looking to be repaired. As of Friday, there was no diagnosis on what was wrong with the Dodge Charger, but it is not working at all. And there's currently, I guess, within our repair budget, there's only $2,000, so he's hoping that it's not working. We did talk a lot about budget. He is waiting for, he's still waiting for grant information to look at additional technology for the police department. Something in computer. Something we'll be talking about later is what we did some money on with the grant money, which is blocked, so we'll leave that for discussion afterwards. But that's pretty much it for the.
Okay, moving right along this, treasurer.
So, and we're closing is upon us, for people who operate on the calendar year, which is the towns and all of our vendors. So in addition to getting the water bills mailed out, we also have completed mailing out staff W-2s went out today. And are available online, and you all should have those in front of you. Treasurers, 1099s went out to those vendors to get them. And the village yard sale, I should set that date because people are inquiring. So it'll be May 9th, which is the Saturday before Mother's Day. Please do not inundate us with your requests for reservations just yet, or the maps will start to come out in February. And we got the budget sessions done. I wanted to say that I'm pretty excited about this year's budget. I'm always excited about the budget. But Jess Weber is a tremendous asset in research. So we've actually already we've been able to dig deeply into the fuel costs. We've never done, to my knowledge, an expense sheet of what the fuel cost is, and that I'm just excited that that's going to get our projections under control. I've been a little bit back. So that's really it, I think. Yeah, budgets.
I see you have a note that village elections are March 18th, which is a Wednesday. A court for any political history nerds or wonks out there. Village elections in New York City are always always the 3rd Tuesday in March, except when it happens to be St. Patrick's Day. In which case, actually, it falls on the 17th. They move it to the 18th. That's written in state law. I'll leave it to someone else to figure out why. that might be. Something else you can bring up on there.
I thought we were talking about the dual pool and I did it.
Okay.
We did.
Okay, old business, adjusted roof bid. I'll figure out the adjusted roof bids, but
Well, I can kick off the conversation and then see where we go. Let's see, so we have the adjusted roof bid, is that in the Dropbox for people that?
I apologize, but I didn't put it into this night's Dropbox. But it is up now, and there's a paper copy here.
Right, so we have an adjusted bid for $69,228.05. And the reason I wanted to I asked the Clint and Dusty to show up this evening is because the conversation to decide if we want to accept this bid or not really comes down to kind of a trade-off on our part between speed and money. The bid is quite high. We kind of knew that. There was also areas in here where there's an ad needed, for additional time and labor and materials where they might run into unexpected areas. I think we even identified some areas where we expect them to run into unexpected areas. And so, this is pushing up against most, if not all, if not maybe even a little bit more than the reserves we have for the building. So on the one hand, we're probably in a place where we can largely absorb this via reserves, but that will put us at pretty much close to nothing here. The benefit is it's done quickly, it's done without DPW time. DPW is freed up to look at all the other pressing issues that they need to manage once there's good weather out. And so there are some positives to it, and then also there's the cost. Largely that, materials are going to be largely the same regardless of who does it. That's looking at almost $22,000 out of the quote. The other 47 or so it is on the labor. So that's the side that we can have some say over. The alternative is to do most of the work in-house. We can't do all of it in-house. There are still parts that we would need to contract out, namely the rubber roofs for the flat areas is not something we can do in-house. But we could do much more of it in-house. We could obviously cover the materials with our existing reserves, but the DPW doesn't have time to do all of it in one go. So this is something where it starts leading out over multiple years, 2, 3, 4 years, somewhere in that range. We can prioritize, obviously, the worst areas to mitigate risk up front. But that means that now over the next X number of years, the DPW is spending time and focus on the roof areas, one section at a time, versus, being able to do all the other important things that are out there. So I didn't actually go as far as to kind of break out the cost of what just the flat roofs would be, though I do see some of that in here. But at a high level, is really a question comes down to, do we want to spend money, I think, to have the DPW focus on other areas to get us up quicker, or do we not feel what we want to spend that money to the extent that we have either? And instead ask the DPW to take some time over it, take this on over the next couple of years. So, anyhow, that's my rough framing. Which I had more of a sense of how to, or just to think about this beyond that, but I think that's as far as I got. I don't know if there's anything you guys want to add, and we can have to discuss on how budget approaches.
I can attest that probably every single room in this building needs some love somewhere. So spending our entire piggy bank on the roof is important. But there's a lot of areas that are becoming hazardous and need attention, not just aesthetically. The back deck of Joe Nelson's office is pretty scary and really is dangerous to walk on. The steps are rough shape. So that was kind of my concern, was spending all of the money all at once. On the roof, and then I have them out for other emergencies that can come. And I would say we're certainly capable of doing a roof, but like Ben mentioned, all at once is a tall order for our roof. The roof above Gordon's office upstairs is the one that needs to be done first. It's actively leaking. And we just did the one over to clerk's office. Maybe the rubber roofs we would farm out if it's not in our skill set, but it's also.
The other areas of the building, like Chief's back porch there, is that something you would be able to do relatively easily compared to the time you would spend on the roof?
Yes. I would say so. The front porch is also kind of like a modern marvel of how it's still standing. That's kind of scary to look at a little bit. It looks good from the road. So like I said, there's a lot of areas that really need some repair. So spending all of it on the roof at one time is.
Yeah, my thought is money aside, if money aside, if you spend your summer on the roof, then no one's fixing anything else. If Snyder Construction spends the summer on the roof, then you guys can fix some of the other stuff. That seems to me in terms of.
Assuming we have the funds.
Right, but where's the money coming from?
Money aside.
Money aside, yes.
Right.
Not that I'd much rather, but we have listed valves and hydrants. Meter changes, yeah, and then you have for.
Right, but if we have to bid, if we have to have a contractor do the other repairs, so what you get another year or two. If you guys can do the other repairs, then the roof will get done this summer, and if we can knock everything out in 2026, then maybe. We don't need to spend it out of this account for a few years, so maybe we bump up our reserve contribution in this budget cycle, and then we're able to back it off. If it's, $70,000 for a roof this year, $60,000 next year, and then $50,000 the year after that, then. That's, the spending is more, and. If there are any of those problematic areas are really touch and go, that you'll get to it for a while.
Yeah, just to put a little bit more numbers as we're looking at it, it's roughly, very rough numbers, about a third to tear off the roof, replace the asphalt shingles, and replace the rubber roofing.
And when we did the roof over the clerk's office, there was a lot of siding replacement. That was not included on that bid. We have to redo the flashing, because the section over the police station was never flashed correctly, it's on top of the siding. And so we already know that area, you're gonna have to tear the siding off, and it's 80-year-old wood siding, so there's no putting it back on. So there's a lot more cost that's not on that proposal. So it would be more than 69, I'm almost sure.
As an employee who sat in the office and watched the water drip down the light fixture from the archive upstairs, can I ask a question about roof repair? In terms of, if you only do one section, but another section is bad, can water come from the bad section into the fixed section?
Yeah,
So that's my, like, you saw my thing, I'm just terrified that it's room. But I'm also wondering if you do it in pieces, are we still storing that?
The one that's leaking there is a completely separate roof, and it's
Yeah.
leaking in a valley.
Okay,
There's actually holes in the little flashing.
so it is okay to do it in sections, if it doesn't compromise.
All different sections of the.
Then we do have just shy of 98 in reserves.
How much did we contribute last year?
And I don't think there's a lot of, see if I can find it.
This is just the sound I make. You know? I will say though, that to me, the crux of the issue is just that we have one thing. I'd feel a lot better about making a decision if we had more than one. I think if the easier goal is, not the easier, but the more intelligent, I mean, our DPW doesn't do roofs. It's like, you guys have a whole workload outside of roofs, so the logical decision here, I mean, there's a reason we put this out to bid in the first place. So I'd be inclined to have a contract with it, I would just feel a lot better about it if there was a couple more bids. Right, which I think is very achievable. I think, you know.
I had made an attempt to reach out originally to these 3 contractors that we use. The only person who at any point got back to me was Snyder. I checked with Rick Leeson, there was a lot of who's in the area, and trying, because it was before we first started. Can't remember, I reached out to another one that would fix it, so. Yep, we'll be in touch. And never heard back from either of them, and I see Brett kind of regular basis, oh yeah, I'll get out there. And, you know, so I don't know whether the depth of all the different roofs and peaks and valleys and porches and whatever, throws off
Sure.
interest,
Yeah.
or not, but.
Oh, sure it does. The municipal bid process throws people off, I know that. The Can't go to the local municipal,
No, huh?
they won't even get on it.
Yeah. So it puts
I was gonna ask about national contractors, but no, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, unless, if you guys, part of the reason we want to talk about it is if you guys really have. No problem, we can do this, knock it out in April. We would like, but I think short of that, why we not have a contractor do it, I mean. If it's the desire of the board to rebid it, I don't know, I would argue, but I don't have any hope that we get this.
I mean, I would certainly feel better about it, right? One bid is just. And it's not encouraging.
Yeah, it's not.
Would
I know-
be, in your mind, I don't know if you'll take this, like, would you look to like substantially change how you went about bidding it, or is it more of like? Reopen it, trying to encourage more people?
So I don't honestly know enough about I want to talk with Jess a little bit about the process. I do think we need to streamline that in some way because it is more difficult than it needs to be, particularly if we want to get into the world of like doing bids for smaller jobs, which I'm sure would be helpful.
It's the sealed bid process and the prevailing wage piece that most contractors don't want anything to be, right?
They also have to register with the state to be a registered contractor, which they're not complicated, but there are these.
Steps that you have to take.
And this bid was a 1-sheet description. Pared down like looking at the town sheets, which were many sheets of description and then a worksheet.
Who's the bond?
And how does that compare to like if we take our car into the shop?
Sorry,
If we like take our car into the shop, things like that, if we have. Like, how are we bidding? How does the bidding compare?
You don't do it if it's below a certain.
we don't bid below 35,000, so it gets posted in the newspaper and posted. Like, there's a posting process that's different for a bid, and then it has to be sealed
So
versus
if we
getting a
bid half
contract.
of the roof at a time,
Sorry,
if we bid half of the roof at a time, we would get twice as many bidders, is that what I'm hearing?
Get no bidders on half of it, my guess.
Well, it's also like,
Contractors not gonna wanna do half work.
it's still,
That would be my experience.
Yeah, that's also mine.
it's all, I mean, like, this, big shot on to try and like split things up specifically, to get around the contract.
I mean, it obviously violates the spirit of the thing, too. But if we're thinking about doing it in stages anyway. Seems reasonable.
Right, I mean, that is one of the, maybe I call it out clearly, like, one of the, right, actually. But the benefit of doing some of it in-house is that the parts that we do have to still get out is actually largely automated. probably considered under 20, and so we just contract it out. So that is a benefit in so far as it's only easier to get some quotes that way. But if we want to have a DPW do what the DPW does and not this stuff, and we want to get this one thing. Guess you could argue if we did it once, so it's one section a year over 3 years, then. You know, that's not really breaking the spirit of the law, because you're genuinely just trying to get the projects, but. It seems kind of like a middle ground, it's the worst thing for but.
You know, it's better. It does violate the spirit of a whole point. Procurement.
So the guess is this is gonna come out over what is quoted here. Because you were saying there's issues with the older.
I mean, I'm not in love with having these guys up on a roof.
Mhm.
God knows what they get into, and then they're stuck up there longer than expected, not gonna do the other repair.
And then there's weather's ins and outs and everything else, and then it just drags it out longer. I don't know if it,
The plywood was all cut, because it wasn't nailed to the barn board. No, there was plywood on it, but we had rid of it all, but whoever had done it hadn't lined it up before, so you just laid it, and that's where it ended in the middle.
So I'm not in love with the idea of these guys being up on the roof. Possibly also.
Mm.
I'm also not in love with the idea of doing sections. Having had my roof redone recently. Mine's not as big as this. I can imagine doing sections. Just do roof, right? Roof needs to be done and do roof. It's kind of what my mindset is.
that's kind of my thinking
I
too.
will also say that. And it's not even as big as this one. That's not a big number.
Well, I'm sure there's some, especially if we're gonna bid it out in sections, there's some kind of. That do the whole thing, like as far as like, red tape, critical stuff, here's it, all like that.
Then it's done. People aren't coming and going. If it was my husband, I'd say, just write the check, just get it done. Just, I don't want the nonsense. Yes, I do. Just do it. You can't do it, and if you can't do it, you need to write the check.
It seems like we're leaning towards accepting.
I mean, I'm leaning towards doing the roof all at once. So that
Right.
we do it. Whether we bid it or not, I think is an open question. I don't think I'm leaning that way, but I'm not.
Sounds like I'm the only one. I mean, I don't need to hold up the whole progress here. I don't feel that strongly about it.
I guess my concern is just, you know a lot more about it than I do, and so I appreciate that, but I think my concern is just the fact that it is prevailing wage and still good, but like. It didn't sound like it was too complex. Bid form, it's not like we had a million requirements, it was pretty much like, here's the order, here was. Right, what's cost.
And the longer we procrastinate, the more the calendar gets set back for the contractor as well, which can take.
Or like, not yet for next year's money.
Right.
But we've had other things in history that only one person did, maybe just engineering projects, I can remember.
I mean, I will say,
When we first put out this bid, I mean, we knew. We had an idea that there was not going to be very much interest. Like, that was the first thing that we discussed, is how many people were.
Mhm.
actually. So, to say that we take this out again and get additional people, especially getting closer to spring, I don't think we're gonna get it.
I don't either.
that's Chris good that you're talking to me.
Yeah, I don't,
Chris, going back up, it's zero.
right, exactly. And then meanwhile, the contractor that did bid goes, well, I just took on this huge project and I can't, yeah,
If we do it, then what we'll have to do is we'll have to make it. Above that.
and maybe we need to lower some other things to make room for that.
Comments?
Any questions for Snyder Construction?
Yeah.
Are there any questions for Snyder Construction? AKA. Mamrock Enterprise.
Timeline, do you know? If the bid's accepted, like,
But
26, it will get, right, I was just gonna say, but it will get done this year.
Work is there. Since we had a not too bad of a fall, but I got a lot of work and pushed off some contractors. So, yeah, if you are just walk around your buildings, you can just look up and you'll know what it's gonna be about.
Mhm.
There's a lot of different sections to this.
Other comments?
Yeah, we have to formally accept, so I make a motion and we accept this deal.
I think this is from super fun.
Yeah, because we're gonna use reserves, but you should accept the bid first, right? Or you wanna do it in one?
Start the clock.
Make the words, motion to accept the.
Yeah, I would entertain a motion to accept the bid from Snyder Construction for Village Hall roof repair. For up to. It's 10% over.
Is there any contingency built into this, Matt? Probably not, huh?
For the,
For the main bid?
that is,
You did go up, right? Went up, saw some rock, let's talk about it.
that one line item for is for.
Okay,
This would be start sheeting repair or damage.
I don't see a contingency built in.
Yeah,
Same one.
So for
Right,
all
like
the materials and the labor.
Well, for accepting the bid.
For the main bid for.
and then we would have to come back.
So we'll do it in two.
Okay,
So I'll entertain a motion to accept the bid of Snyder Construction for Village Hall roof repair. Bid totaling $69,288.05. So we'll have to move that.
So
Something.
so
Other comments or questions? None, all in favor, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed?
Did you vote? Did you abstain? Did you vote nay?
You know. Any.
oh,
I'm sorry, 50% all in favor.
I said any opposed,
Oh.
any abstention? No.
You're opposed.
Yeah, but that were bid. Now, I would entertain a motion with subject to permissive referendum to spend up to. 85.
that's,
75? Let me say.
I said 85, I don't know.
80?
I don't, 80.
I'd say 80.
To spend up to $80,000 from the Village Hall Building Repair Reserve. On. New roof.
So,
Spray.
yes. Oh,
Wait a second.
Second,
Comments, questions, discussion?
that's like a 15% on top. I don't know how. Well, I'm very evolution of these things, so. You know,
Gonna be just line item for it's gonna be based on what we.
Right.
When I see it, that's definitely citing that's damaged, falling off.
It's a really old.
Yeah,
maybe
so,
5% could be.
so like you guys like effectively like, you kind of gotta, it's, can't really.
If anybody's ripped open an old house, you know that it's just a nightmare. But you can't.
Thanks, man.
Okay, if no one comments or questions, then all in favor of the reserve account spending subject to Mr. Referendum, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention.
Both. Wait, you're opposed? Okay,
The bid, not the money.
okay, okay.
Different, and not even the bid, to be clear, because.
Yes.
lack of-
The lack of bids. We all are opposed to that, but oh well.
Anything else on the roof? Anything else under old business? Thanks, guys, appreciate it. Feel free to stick around. New business, state of the village, we've mentioned already, is going to be February the 7th. Send out the cards this week.
Yes.
I have 4 topics. Thanks, guys. For topics so far, project updates, West Main Street sidewalk. Hopefully a fire hall up by then. And I'll give a brief update on the park. Maybe by then, but I have an update on the fact that we don't have anything yet. And then any zoning. We have that. Anything else that we know we want to cover? So I can be mentally preparing. We can be mentally preparing. I liked it last year with a longer open town hall space.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are the projects be water mitigation update, because that's hot on everyone's.
Stuff I was gonna say, if we're gonna try and meet with MRV the end of the month. Yeah, like that, I'd probably actually end of next week.
Okay.
It's my hope, we just gave some times back to them, we'll get back. And then we can say a little more about where we are in the process for the stormwater management comprehensive plan, whatever, it's. Yeah.
Great, so I assume we brought it to everyone's attention again.
Yeah, no, it's everyone's on our mind, and you know, people listening along, if we're moving forward, it's never as fast as you want it to be. And that process is to identify potential projects we could go after.
Yep,
Later,
okay.
and that requires money, so and again, it's never as fast as we want to, but if again, we don't want to update where we're standing on all pieces.
Okay, if anything else comes to mind that we absolutely need to talk about at the state of the village, let's pass it around. So we can discuss on that. The art system. That is already covered by projects, but if anything comes up. Let's add it to the list. Senior property tax exemption. So we've had some changes to the allowable exemption scales. Hope everyone's had a chance to look at it. I don't remember the last time we adjusted ours. It's been a few years at least. See from the table that we're towards the upper end. Villages, the highest, but we're not off by much. $1,500 difference. In terms of the 50% level. Within similar distance to the highest income bracket. But there is some room to move up if we wanted to. If we want more time to think about it, either decide we're not gonna make a change this year, which is fine. We can say we want. There's 3 options. We can either say we don't want to make a change this year. We definitely do want to make a change this year, or we need more time to think about it. It has to be approved by March 1st.
Something.
First, yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, so we would have our February meeting if we wanted to consider further.
So if I understand
the comparison sheet that's saying that if you make that dollar, get 50% reduction. And then I guess it phases out between that and the highest income. Is that how to read that?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I'm just making sure I'm understanding. There's a lot of numbers, and some terse words.
One other question I have is whether those are separate, right? Because we itemized the different exemptions if I remember correctly, right? So it's not, these are not necessarily tied to each other, the senior and the.
They are not.
They're, maybe just change those.
And there's a veterans one as well. It's at one of the last bills signed by the governor made some significant changes to the veterans protection, but it was very, very poorly worded in the bill. So there's some real confusion as to who it actually would apply to. So we have not received that information assessment yet.
And am I remembering right that last year we adopted the veterans exemption? But heck, before that, is that right? There was a couple.
We had a firefighters exemption recently. Maybe that was.
Maybe I'm.
Yeah, that was it.
I know that if we were. If we were way off. From other villages, or even the towns. Then I would think that we should definitely change, we're on par or towards the higher end. I don't think there's urgency to make a change, but I'm also not opposed to it.
I say we keep it the same.
Yeah,
I think we keep it the same. That's
Why?
my
I mean,
opinion.
I guess I kind of assume some of this, but it's still available, so where. Municipalities haven't adopted it, the way this is.
No, the limits were raised. We have.
There's a letter in Dropbox, A8B, assuming that's where all documents and senior citizen exemption. The exemption scales is under 6A.
So right now we're at 50% exemption. For that, I don't know, 2 things here. So right now we're at a 50% exemption. For anyone making 35. Okay. Legislation would allow us to go up to a 65% exemption. Slightly, so. 33.5.
I mean, the other thing, and maybe this is something. Would love it if our assessment helps with this, to understand that. All the offsets of that impact to tax collection, maybe that's the thing to wait for, and we can discuss more in February. I'm open to it, we continue to talk about how expensive everything is getting, the people that I think. Come in mind for me the most on that, if you want fixed income, but you're. Probably gonna be a fair amount of a lot with senior citizens paying 35 and 33 range. And so I think. We don't have a lot of tools to try and address that. Because the cost of it's just keep going up, so it does feel like an opportunity to. Help a little bit where we can, but I want to be. It'd be nice to have a data of.
What that would reduce, like.
Right.
Or what that means, then is that spread across everyone outside, right? My hunch is that. That's not a ton of people and a ton of free rate, and so we're probably.
We have
sort of
one
this
pushback.
round out.
Yeah, you have to email Jay, so, okay, so. Let's do that, so right now we're at the max. We're offering 50%, which is the max that's allowable, it could go as high as 65. So why don't, Jessica, if you'll email Jay Franklin tomorrow. And simply ask him what the, impact would be to our
Collection.
collection if we went. we don't want to give them too many permutations, so if we went to the newly allowed maximum exemption of 65%.
What,
What
what that impact would be.
I like that.
Well,
It's, yeah, that's.
wait,
Did they have to apply when it's official?
wait, a couple, we'll know exactly how many property owners are receiving the exemption. And what that means,
Yeah.
and it'll attach to 15%
Okay,
bump to it.
so clarifying two things. One, he says that he is unable to estimate the impacts.
That's on the state database.
So I may want to just hold off, just.
Well, ask him if the state database is updated, but I think he could go and look
Okay.
specifically for the senior exemption.
I'll figure it out.
you can also look and see what, if we apply that over last year, you know, maybe it often.
Yeah, potentially.
And never mind on the second part, which I
Okay.
decided to read, and that worked out to stop that.
And it was really back in February. Yeah. Okay. That seems fair. Noise law update.
Yeah, so this was on here mostly just to start the conversation, as part of the conversations around Elm Street. One of the thoughts that has come up, or the conversation, side conversations come up is around noise and concerns around noise. And that is just reiterating the conversation that kind of pick up and put down over time. And again, of like, is the noise law we have at all any good? And so to that end, I was having a conversation with our attorney around that, and he provided a draft. Or a model, I should say, a model noise ordinance. That he is, I suspect he's used it other places, so it's not terribly long. So it's 6 pages, and I just wanted to open up the conversation here about if there's any particular thoughts or ideas we have around noise, if there's anything we're aware of that we want to specifically make sure we're thinking about as we have this. Otherwise, my thought is to attempt to find some time between now and our November for our February meeting. What month is it? Or maybe, maybe this is where I was all along. But to take a look at this and kind of familiarize myself with it, and everyone else, I would encourage you to. And we can consider probably adopting this roughly as it stands, assuming it's got guidance recommendation. The little bit that I've skimmed it over, it looks pretty well done. I would want to compare it to our current law. Not that I think that's better, but if there are any particular details in there that are addressed here, or maybe all another and they're asking for a thought. And then maybe this is sufficient enough for us.
Wasn't the old law always 10 o'clock PM?
The 10 o'clock sounds right?
It is.
This says 11 PM on this one.
Right, so I think those kind of details.
Yeah. I think we should keep it at 10.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously grassroots, there's an exception, but that's once a year.
I was gonna ask about, they're like.
Yeah.
They lost.
Yeah.
Speaking outside of the village, if you look at the towns, noise law, they ever enact anything? I enacted a couple years ago.
I don't know it. I could have spoken into that, certainly.
Not big it is, nothing to do, but I just haven't looked at it close, because I mean, one option is, if theirs is very good. We could simply repeal ours. Towns would take effect.
Oh, fascinating.
Oh. But that would then, of course, mean that certain event permits would have to go through the town. To violate, quote unquote, the noise ordinance.
Yeah, we. Do you know how it is, I guess it would work still with the village police department, enforce the town's law?
Yeah, because the language, again, we have to look at it, but the language is anything similar to this, that. Any New York State or federal peace or police officer in jurisdiction, yeah. Not saying that that's, I'm not
Mhm.
saying that I want to do that, I just haven't looked at the town laws.
Right.
Because if it's similar, it just would be redundant because we're all in.
Right, yes, but I'm certainly okay with having a more, robust and enforceable noise ordinance, either ours or the towns.
Yeah.
I did send this to Chief Nelson, you should see how. Or how. He would go about enforcing. Yes.
Essentially, the vote out soon as well, when that his first pass was like, that is good. And I would say from a, permitting standpoint, I feel like that there's a notion you could sort of just apply it for a noise variance. Or a noise permit versus this temporary that coming on the property.
That's a funky special.
Yeah, but I like that there could be a distinction.
Yeah, I think want to make sure that that's.
So you want to not allow them to celebrate your birthday, you could apply this to break the sound barrier, but not a good event, if not on property. Right? Those two things.
Yeah, actually, if we go down this road, it would actually be worth. Taking a look at what we call our temporary event permit. And revising it to a special event permit. That captures all of these things. Based on what the applicant is looking to do.
Yeah.
Say I'm having a graduation party, so you really loud, really late, but I don't need you to close roads. So.
Yeah, that's it, I mean, it needs to be banned.
It's a temporary event permit,
It's funky.
predates a lot of it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think, right, having this streamlined and clear as far as the event permit piece makes a lot of sense, so I would. Fine with that, and I think that's. Another part that keeps coming up around, general, is that an event permit piece, so I don't wanna get it. We'll make it simple and streamlined, but.
That works, I like that.
Put the pieces together.
Yeah.
I could even. When we get closer to this one, we also have to pay attention to the street, but. Examples that might be useful for us to look at.
Yeah.
Right, so. I'm not hearing any major concerns. I am happy to keep this on my to-do list. It's kind of a medium priority, but I think we keep working through it. I think it'll also be helpful in some of the conversations about some concerns on Elm Street, that we can have. The conversation saying that we're moving forward in this direction. I think that's it, no particular action needed at this point.
Before I forget, there are 2 items in the Dropbox towards the bottom. As we begin to. Having additional conversations with MRB, and they will be expanding quickly over the next month. Regarding fire and EMS facility. But we have 2 grants, one is due February 4th and the other is due into late February. That we want to apply for. The first one is the long-awaited second go around in the state's V-Fire grant. 2026 Volunteer Fire Infrastructure and Response Equipment Grant Program. The award is up to $1 million. That one is due the 4th. And the second one is Local Government Efficiency Program Grant. That award is up to $1.25 million. And that is due, I think, a little bit later in February. But we need resolutions to approve. MRB writing the grants for us, so will be price tag associated with it. So I will just read into the record one after the other. We'll do one at a time and then ask any questions, please. Starting with V-Fire, whereas the village board for the village of Trustees located in Tompkins County supports the submission of a 2026 volunteer fire infrastructure and response equipment V-Fire grant program on behalf of the village for improvements to the village fire and EMS station. And whereas the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services provides a competitive statewide reimbursement grant program to strengthen volunteer fire departments and districts by funding the construction, renovation, or purchase of critical facilities that support fire operations. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Trumansburg Village Board identifies the village mayor as the authorized representative of the village to execute necessary documents relative to and as required for the ratification. And be it further resolved that the village board for the Village of Trumansburg recognizes and fully supports the submission of the 2026 B fire application by MRB Group on behalf of the village. Someone can so moved. Give a second. Comments, questions?
We did apply for it last year, we didn't get it.
Again, last year's grant not specifically mentioned facilities, this year's does. Still only a $25 million pool, I think had 300 applicants last year, so. Let's see, the old Polish was clearing house, can't win if you don't enter.
That's right.
Any other comments or questions? Dated myself. Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Second one is, whereas the village board for the Village of Trumansburg located in Tompkins County supports the submission of a 2026 Department of State Local Government Efficiency Grant Program, LGE, on behalf of the village for improvements to the village fire and EMS station. And whereas the New York State Department of State provides a competitive statewide reimbursement grant program for 2 or more local governments with a combined project, prioritizing projects in the emergency services category. And whereas the village will apply in coordination with the towns of Ulysses, Colbert, and Hector, and has existing shared services agreements for fire and EMS services with all of the municipalities. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Trumansburg Village Board identifies the village mayor as the authorized representative of the village to execute necessary documents relative to and as required for the grant application. And be it further resolved, the village board does hereby accept that they shall provide at least a 10% cash match of any grant funding awarded under the local government efficiency grant program, and is hereby appropriated and obligated from the general fund. And be it further resolved that the village board for the Village of Trumansburg recognizes and supports the submission of the 2026 local government efficiency grant program application by MRB Group on behalf of the village. Let's move that. Moved. Give a second.
Second.
Can I ask? The general fund, does that mean that you can't use, this would be for a structure, right? This LGE grant? That you can't use reserve funds? And so you're all comfortable with that?
We had to borrow.
Okay,
We just got to ban it. We
okay,
needed
Okay.
to for.
okay.
Other comments, questions?
Mm-mm.
Hearing none, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? And I hope to have an update by next month to where we stand with all of this. What direction we'll keep it going. Last listed item under new business is license plate reader policy.
So.
Mm.
Yeah,
I'm
Ben inquired about it, and I have been talking to, Chief Nelson about it. Because it has been, topic of discussion within Tompkins County and actually the entire United States on how and, if people are being tracked and monitored, for different things like immigration status or reproductive health care, and how different states are using it, and how certain states are using it, how certain states like Texas are using it, to actually apply some of their own laws, for people that go seeking reproductive rights in other states, like New York State. So we discussed on how it's being used within our own department. We do have a current policy that is of an internal use policy, which is a strict guideline of how how the information that we receive from these cameras are being used. The information that we currently get from the cameras is license plate and description of the car. It is not live video as some people has seen in other areas of the country. It is a system that was actually recommended by the state. And it was viewed, I think, by the village before I started here. And then we approved it in August of 2024 to use. Those cameras were installed, and completed installation was August 2025. So it's only been very recent. The program that the chief uses, we are able to, with the assistance of the company, delineate who receives our information and how we use other police department information from anywhere. It's very easy to remove different areas, but it's also very easy to add different areas. And because the chief is the only one that really looks at the information and is really able to delete or accept any other police department requests. He's the only one that really has control of who we work with and who sees our data. Currently our data is set to expire after 30 days. Which to me doesn't seem like a long period of time for what we use our information for. And let's see what.
I think the important thing that I came away from it is realizing that, like, while the system is run by this company, we own and maintain the control, we retain control over the pictures and images that are stored and who gets to use them and who gets access to them. And so the key part there is when people talk about these stories that you see online or in reports, whatever, it is all about who has access to the photos. So because it's a national company that's on the cloud, you could, if you wanted to, allow any police department in the entire country to look at this image. That is an option because of the way the system is worked out. And so some departments just do that. So the departments don't stay complete on that. And then you can find out that any random police department in whatever state you'd like to enter here can look at your data for whatever reason. It might be looking at it for a reason that you don't agree with, working with departments that we don't agree with. There's a whole line. What we've seen the sheriff's department do is restrict that down to only sharing data from their cameras within other departments.
I saw that they just did that.
They just did that very and so talking to the chief, that's his intention as well. It takes a minute to get it all sorted out, like that's what we're at. And then already it's on the small list, it's only some other departments. We're just studying it further. And so to me, that's really the distinction. There's a million ways you can use this poorly. That's through every technology, and depending on who uses it. It was a great conversation with Chief, that just the reality of the world we live in. We're noticing that there's a different set of values in different areas around the country, and we don't all share the same values, and so we have an opportunity to make sure that we're sharing the data with the ones that we trust and we have a good relationship with, and that makes me feel good. So we're moving that direction. There's also a transparency portal that she was working with that we're going to get up on the website shortly so that people can see in real time the list of departments that we're actually sharing the data with. I think there's also some other stats there about how many cars and how many alerts and things. But I don't recall it's on there, but it's some it provides transparency and lots of the list for that. And the other thing that I came away from the conversation, which was very interesting, I hadn't anticipated going, is that there's actually a value to us owning these cameras, because then people can come to this meeting and hold us accountable. If we step back from that, and we may still do that, they're not cheap, there's always a budgetary conversation, but for the next year or two, already here under a grant fund. It's great that we have the direct control over all this and say all this, because there's cameras all over the county and the sheriff runs them. I certainly trust the sheriff, but that's an election that can change. And that is, I can't walk in the sheriff's office and ask him tough questions about these systems. I can't. And so I think there's actually a benefit to us having them here, manage their control of them. Because if we don't put them up, unfortunately, the reality of what's going on, like it's all over right away, and there's already interest from the sheriff's department to develop again, I think all for good reason, but just it becomes a situation where we have a little less say in what actually happens. So I feel good about them using it in a very controlled way that we're talking about them. I don't have concerns that other departments in Tompkins County are gonna work with ICE or look for abortion clinic issues or whatever it may be. And to your point that like they're only capturing a license plate, they're only capturing a picture of the car. And Chief was happy to share a couple of really great use cases that we've used from their person and wanted to know just kind of which direction they moved, they left going out of town, just went there with a search and find them, they were out with some, they got some mental health issues and need some support, something like that. There's an issue at Burned Area where there was a car bandage description of where it takes a picture of the car, but also it will have a white van. They come draw on descriptions like things. They're able to use that to find a lead, go talk to someone, and that can help investigation. So it has been useful for me here. And I think it's a reasonable use. I think 30 days of data does not, we're tracking everybody through their entire lifetime. And it's, you know, a couple cameras in the village. It's not watching everybody's front door. So I think the way we're using it makes a lot of sense to me. I feel much more comfortable about it. And really that sharing part for me is the key part.
Yeah, it's strictly only used within investigations. It's used as a tool to investigate. It is not, you know, consistently track vehicles. Like I said, the only person that has access to it currently is the chief. So that's not what he does with his county. So within the village of Truman, I feel like we are using it responsibly for the people that we use it. And we'll continue to monitor it. I mean, there's a lot of data that comes through there. And you know, depending on whether or not it's useful, is what we're gonna have to decide on eventually. It was covered by a grant this time around, but it may not be next time. So yeah. The other thing that I wanted to say was I did look at the ACO report. But I also looked at Flock's response to their reports, and they did delineate certain things that they have stopped doing. So one of the things that ACLU was really adamant about was how the federal agency was using Flock. They have actually removed that as a category to partner with the federal agency. There is also a keyword filter where you can block requests for immigration specifically and reproductive health care specifically. And those are things that we can definitely filter out for the village.
Comments, questions?
I don't have much to add, but thank you for looking into it more. I think my understanding has always been that we had this fairly constrained and we're keeping the data in-house. So I'm happy to hear that we're moving even further in that direction. Yeah, I think as far as surveillance goes, I mean, surveillance is kind of a bad word, right? But this to me seems like the most useful and also the most constrained way to do it at the same time, which feels, you know, it's not frequently that you can do something like that, right? It is the least invasive, most effective option. Usually those two are, right? You sort of have to go the other direction. This feels like a real.
Can we think about it in comparison to if you own a cell phone? You give up a lot of privacy by owning anything. They know you, they know your face, they know where you go, they know what you do.
Yeah, it's more is like, when is the day government and when is the day some random company that's like collecting on your data? Neither of it's great, but I do think there's an extra level of burden for being above bar as the government.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I like that it's contained.
What trust you
Right.
federal government, or so it really is dependent on what procedures we have in-house.
Right, that we can keep track of, right?
Any other items of new business? Second public comment period.
Considering that I'm staying here and it feels like midnight. Do generally have and it village meeting, I'm always surprised with all of the things that you do for us. But I did, since I'm here, I have it be useful to briefly discuss the noise permit. I am operating under the thought that because I've worked with municipalities before with noise permits, that anything that we did at 16 Elm this year would not likely even have met a decibel level. However, I did want to ask the question, and I'm not exactly sure how to discern this question, but it's something like, do you guys think that I would have needed one? And I understand that you're just looking at drafts of a potential permitting, is it a permit or a law? The draft that you're looking at reading and then proposing exchanging for the one that's currently. But will there be a chance for us as the public to see what that is and make comment? And do you think that it would have applied if it's adopted, or that we wrote a current ordinance?
I can't say if it would have applied if adopted. I don't know, I haven't paid attention enough to know the events that you know there.
Yeah.
As far as seeing draft 100%, anytime we pass a law, it's a process, there's formal hearing, at the very least, but there's spots and I think that just double check the draft is in the
It's
Well, just to be clear though, for you and anyone else looking, what we were looking at is really a template, right? Like the language in the law is the town of,
yeah.
you know, this is like an example from another place. So this is not a proposed local law. So that, yeah, like Ben said, there'll be
I mean, I think
several
Right,
standards.
there's a little stop while we play, hey, here's the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll keep moving forward. I don't know, like the one line that I can think of here that says, it says conducting a party event or gathering where the noise is audible within any neighboring building or at any distance greater than 75 feet from the property line, the location of party or event or gathering is perhaps something that is considered outside of the, like, is considered noise, I guess, at that point, with noise that would trigger this law.
I don't know.
Which that seems to be very broad.
Live next to the golf course in the summer. Or the fishing game club. I don't think it's
Well, we will
anything you have
keep
to worry
all those
about.
Things as we move forward, like, I don't think we should discuss the specifics of the template.
Right.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, and also like, I don't, I'd imagine a lot of this will probably carry forward, so we're kind of pointing out what's in here.
Noise ordinances. The reason why we have to kind of work through this draft and the reason why we have public hearings and whatnot. Noise ordinances are historically problematic. But if you don't have one, then there's nothing to enforce, right? So it's like. There's this, not in Turkey, but there's a doctrine in the law called the. Of course, it was written in the 1700s, so it's obviously not gender neutral in this language, but it's the reasonable man doctrine is what it's called. And I've always wondered, who is this reasonable? I'm not a reasonable person. But somewhere in all of that is where we have to flesh out the language of the law. So would it ever have applied to you last year? I don't know. Probably
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
If you were going to have, if you were gonna have one of the bands from grassroots play a second set at your place, you would probably want to apply for the permit. So it's one of those.
All these ideas.
The thing about noise that's really difficult is, for instance, noise doesn't know municipal boundaries. So when I hear grassroots from, the bedroom window at 3 in the morning, when they're supposed to stop at 1. Is anybody violating something? Well, then you get into the fairgrounds as its own little kind of weird agricultural fiefdom from the
The
40s.
music doesn't stop. Doesn't stop.
And the weird thing is, I used to live on Main Street and not hear it at all. But now that I live out from Main Street, I hear it a lot depending on which way the wind blows. So it's just.
One of the issues from the municipality's perspective, one of the issues is, do we have a noise ordinance at all or not? The answer is not, then there's nothing to ever enforce. So even when everybody says, this is out of hand, there's nothing to enforce. Where it gets tricky is those fine line. You apply for a event permit because you're gonna have a string quartet at a wedding, but you're. I won't pick on anyone. Some neighbor somewhere doesn't apply for an event permit for their graduation party, and it's. So
Yes,
it's, so yeah, that's what we have to kind of. And I know that our existing noise law is. There are better noise ordinances than our existing.
Well, and I think what I would say is that like, what I like about the structure of this, like, these other report, but the structure with having that permit is that like, here's basically the things we said. Are generally fine, just currently generally not fine, when you're the local account permit, if you're gonna do one without 5 days, that's no processing and so on and so forth. So I think it creates more of a structure. And like clarity, more than trying to keep it in, or like make sure no one taking input ever. So I think that's at least the concept I think we're able to try.
I think for the most part, people just tolerate everything pretty well. There's always going to be some people, but hammering, sawing, fixing a house or mowing a lawn or using a snow blower or, I mean, if you've got to get out at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning and have to run your snow blower, I think people understand that. Even if we had a noise ordinance that said, it's disturbing. But it also has to reach that decibel level of annoyance, right?
I used to practice my saxophone on my front steps. That definitely violates this, as written.
Well, I'm sure that'll be a developing conversation I get as I'm a realtor also for a decade and, there is this bundle of rights with property ownership, the right to quiet enjoyment. Which I think is, something people do expect. But has been something that when we vetted our, events that we did have, that we kept that in mind. Just saying. So, I'll let you guys do your.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks, fun night.
Yeah, so I would entertain a motion to go to executive session to discuss EMS personnel. So move. Motion, somebody
Second,
all in favor?
aye.